bishop.
To the black bishop.
To the black bishop, yeah. You know, the black bishop can take a step back, attack the rook, and then it can relocate itself to the center. And I don't see what white's pawns are doing.
Okay, I think he just wants to play caveman chess and push them together up the board. They will be supported by rooks, by queens, so you're not a fan of that move. I'm personally... I mean, I'm not against it. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan either, but I think it's fine for Duda. And now, okay, black's bishop did indeed step back, hitting the white rook, which also retreated. And now, as you mentioned, black's bishop has installed itself in the middle, challenging the supremacy of white's light-squared bishop.
Yeah, I did.
These bishops will be traded.
Right, I did wonder actually whether Duda could have taken the opportunity to jump his knight forward, but okay, he's jumped it backwards. And like you say, the bishops will be traded. I think I would trade. Would you? Yeah, and Wesley says yes.
And the bishop in the centre of the board has been replaced by a very, very strong black queen. And now it's a battle of minor pieces. Whose piece is stronger? The white knight, which has versatility, which is very agile, jumping to both light and dark squares, or the black bishop, which is a bit stuck. And now Wesley trying to get the black rook involved, trying to bring it into the heart of white's position. Okay, to trade that rook, attack it with the white knight. What do you think here?
Attack it with the white knight. And once again, I have to eat my words because everything I wanted came true. And I suddenly don't like the black position anymore because, like you say, black's bishop is just bad.
Passive, yep. And also, in terms of pawn structure, black's pawns look nice in the centre of the board, but they will never, ever step forward while white has this pawn formation. However, the white pawns on the left side, they can easily step forward later on. And there we go. Wesley so avoids a trade of rooks. He's hoping that his rooks will prove more active than white's. And Duda, OK, he's upped the pace for sure over the last few turns. He's now actually got a time advantage. He will be looking to improve the white knight. And which direction will it go in? It's not clear. Maybe he can push a pawn as well.
Yeah, I somehow feel that the white knight belongs to the left of the board. And just to eye up the black pawn. Because if it jumps to the middle, then it can get beaten around and give black some extra time to perhaps launch a kingside attack. Yep,
definitely. So white's knight, it feels like that is the piece that needs to be prioritised, to be improved immediately. OK, no, Duda, however, goes all out. He pushes his pawn. He's gaining time against black's rook. We thought maybe he would keep this in his pocket for later. Sometimes you actually want to keep threats in mind for later rather than put them on the board where it's easier for your opponent to react. And talking of reacting, Wesley so just moves his rook. And we see a pawn sacrifice from Duda. Giving up a pawn here, he's trying to create a pass pawn of his own. If this black pawn takes the white pawn, then white will bypass it. There we go. White's pawn is 2 squares away from promotion, supported by his own rook and queen. This is really interesting, really ambitious play by Duda.
Yeah, totally ambitious, right? You know, just to bulldoze the way for the pawn. And the question is, how strong is this pawn? Can it be surrounded and then dominated?
I think that's Wesley So's plan. This white pawn is very, very far advanced, but it will be blockaded if it steps forward by a black rook. So white's knight has jumped forward now. OK, will we see Wesley So give up his rook for this white knight? This white knight is one of the best pieces on the board right now, anchored by a pawn, hitting some of the black pawns in the middle of the board as well. I would be surprised if Wesley doesn't. OK, he does allow that white knight to survive. Instead, he blocks the line of the white rook and of the white queen. Actually, this is very, very clever. This one just does stop white's pawn from advancing, at least. So, long-term, I think trades don't help black because white has the most dangerous pawn, but short-term, white's activity has been blunted.
I'm just keeping an eye on the other game. Artemiev again in huge time trouble in that one with just seconds left. Pre-moving all over the place. It's looking good for Hikaru then, I guess, with more than a minute left on his clock.
Yeah, it looks like Hikaru can force a draw at the very least. So Artemiev in big trouble.
And we see a trade of rooks, and now Duda takes control of the open A-line, and Wesley says, no, 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 queen, move away. And the pawn actually is just stuck there, all by itself.
OK, white's pawn is defended by its knight, and if white can remove the black rook from the board and trade off the queens as well, that white pawn is running through and becoming a new queen. That is why Duda has offered this trade of rooks. What do you think? Can he trade now, Wesley? So is that too dangerous?
It's too dangerous. But it is tempting as well, because black will then get to advance his pawn one square forward. But the risk then involved is so great. I don't think Wesley will take that decision at all.
Yeah, if black wants to play safe, he will keep the rooks on the board. But ambitious move is to trade and continue pushing the black pawns. So I personally think I would run away. I wouldn't even hesitate. I'd be scared that white's pawn will have a clear path through to its end goal if the rooks disappear. But Wesley So knows that that would give ground. And, OK, he keeps the tension between the two rooks. He just improves the black king away from any potential checks. And, OK, now the question is for Duda. Does he trade rooks? If we see a trade of rooks, however, then the black queen will recapture, the black queen protecting her rook in the corner. And then there's no way in for white's queen. OK, very, very tense. All three results still in play, still possible.
With seconds left. That is so cool.
With seconds left, exactly. And a few moments ago, Wesley was up on time. Now Duda is the one investing that time. He spent nearly 40 seconds on this move, down to around 15 seconds. The clock could haunt him later. OK, he pushes a pawn forward. I think he just wants to maintain the status quo. He doesn't want to break the tension.
But OK, this does allow Wesley to also start nibbling a little bit on the right side of the board. And Duda moving his queen just in order to set up a devious trick of stepping forward with his queen, two squares, and giving a check.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's actually a threat, though. The queen trade would see black's bishop coming around and stopping white's pawn. And remember, black has a very dangerous pawn as well, so a bit of symmetry here. OK, he has gone for the queen trade. Who is this going to favour? Yeah, those two pawns on the left side, both two squares away from promoting. OK, what is Wesley considering? He has to trade the queens. There we go. They're off the board.
OK, and the bishop now has to keep an eye on the passed pawn. OK, but wait 1 second. Yes.
There we go.
The bishop comes and pawn, and now the bishop must take a step backwards.
And now white's king is going to rush off to that left side to try and go for black's remaining pawn.
OK, I'm surprised by this move. I thought that Wesley would take the opportunity to push his pawns there on the right.
OK, but I think both kings are racing towards those pawns on the left side. Black is also temporarily a pawn up. We should remember this. So, OK, white's king is 2 squares away from picking up that black pawn. Black's king as well, only a few squares away from picking up the white pawn. And now Duda creating a threat. That white knight was threatening to jump in and attack the black bishop. But, OK, now Duda there grimacing because his pawn is about to drop as well. And remember, he needs to win the game. A draw he can maybe achieve, but now black's bishop is simply going to attack that knight. And how is he clinging on to his pawn? He
has to take a step backwards and almost repeat the position a few times.
He can maybe jump in with his knight right now in front of the black king if you want. OK, he does retreat the knight, but no way through. The black bishop controls the entry squares for that white knight. And Duda, he's gambling. He knows he needs a win. He doesn't have much time on the clock either. He's giving up another pawn in order to try and create some action for his king. The white king is going to soon race over to try and pick off those black pawns. White is dominant on the light squares, but look at black's pawns on the dark squares. That's a chain. And black's king's coming round the long way to go for white's pawns. It's a race.
It's a race, and I think it's one that Wesley is going to win. The king is just too quick. Look at it go. And it's heading for the central pawn in the middle. And look at that. Duda has been forced to defend his own pawn with his king. That's it.
Yeah, and white is completely paralysed with his king, and the knight alone will not make any headway. Black's bishop is actually going to be a great defender. Look at all of black's pawns on the dark squares. Black's bishop is simply going to defend those pawns when necessary, and at the very minimum, I think we'll see a draw from Wesley. So he's got full control, and white's knight is also going to be stuck, paralysed, blocking this pawn. Wesley's just going to wait with the black king and with the black bishop as well, and no way forward. Duda frustrated. What do you think, Ivanka? Draw?
Draw. I don't think Wesley's going to even bother to try to win this one. It's just going to wait around and say, hey, you're going to do nothing.
Yeah, and the two experienced Americans are going to clinch these blitz matches. There we go. It's a draw. Wesley So takes the win in today's match. Nakamura won his match too.
Yeah,